You're serious? I asked, my voice trembling as I stared at Richard from across the living room. You want me to hand over $3,000 more on top of the $4,000 I already give you every month? He leaned back in his recliner, arms folded over his chest, like a king delivering an edict. I need a new car, he said flatly. The old one's falling apart. I don't see why it's such a big deal. You've got the money. I felt my chest tighten. The big deal, Richard, is that I've already sacrificed enough for this household. I pay the bills, cover the groceries, your utilities. I even helped settle Adam's credit card debt. And now you expect me to buy you a car? Yes, he replied, voice rising. Because I deserve it. I've done enough for this family. It's time you pulled your weight. Pulled my weight. The words struck like a slap. I had been carrying this household financially for years, working myself to exhaustion just to keep everything afloat while my husband Adam and his father, Richard, treated my income like a bottomless ATM. And now, the one time I tried to set a boundary, Richard had the nerve to call me selfish. I'm not doing it, I said firmly, standing my ground. You'll have to find another way. His face twisted in fury, the vein on his forehead bulging. You're just like your mother, always thinking you're better than the rest of us, he snapped, standing abruptly, movements sharp and aggressive. Don't you dare disrespect me in my own house. My house? I shot back, voice quivering. This house was paid for with my money. Richard, before I could even brace myself, he lunged and shoved me with both hands. My feet slipped on the hardwood floor, and suddenly I was tumbling down the stairs. The world blurred. Pain exploded through my body as I hit the bottom. My arm twisted beneath me, my head throbbing from the impact. For a moment, I couldn't move. The pain was blinding. Tears stung my eyes as I tried to breathe. At the top of the stairs, Richard stood with rage still on his face. That's what happens when you don't respect me, he sneered, then turned and stormed back into the living room. I expected Adam to come running to help, to ask if I was okay, but when he appeared at the top of the stairs, his expression was blank, almost bored. You should have just given him the money, Maya, he said with a shrug. You know how he gets. My name is Maya, and for 4 years I had been the financial backbone of a household that didn't value me. I married Adam believing we were building a life together, but it quickly became clear his loyalty belonged to Richard. When Richard's health began to decline, I agreed to move into his home to help out. What I didn't realize was that helping out meant funding every single thing: rent, utilities, food, and even Richard's personal whims. At first, I believed it was temporary. I convinced myself that Adam and Richard appreciated it, even if they didn't say so. But over time, their entitlement only deepened. Adam eventually stopped working, claiming he needed to stay home and support his father. Richard's demands escalated, and he treated my income like it was his. Still, I stayed telling myself it was for the sake of family, but lying at the bottom of those stairs, bruised and broken, I saw the truth. This wasn't family. It was exploitation, my worth measured only by what I could give, and I was done. That night, I quietly packed a bag. I didn't say a word to Adam or Richard as I slipped out the door. My heart was pounding with a blend of fear and determination. I didn't know where I was headed, but I knew I couldn't stay. I checked into a motel, sat on the edge of the bed, clutching my phone. The weight of everything threatened to crush me, but I wouldn't let it. For years, I'd been their safety net, the only thing keeping them from collapse. This time, I wasn't going to catch them. The next morning, I made the call. "Angela," I said when my lawyer answered, "I need help. It's about my husband and his father." Talking to Angela was like finally breathing after being underwater for years. She listened as I laid it all out. The financial support, Richard's demand for a car, and the assault. "You've been covering all their expenses by yourself?" she asked, one brow raised. I nodded. "For 4 years. Every bill, every single cost. And the house, is it in your name?" she asked, flipping through her notes. "It's all in my name," I replied. "They couldn't even qualify for the loan." I own." Angela gave me a slow, knowing smile. "Then it's your house. Maya not. We'll start with eviction papers for both of them." Just the thought of evicting Adam and Richard made my stomach churn, but it also gave me a strange sense of justice. For years, I'd ignored my own needs, telling myself I was doing the right thing. But that night on the stairs made it painfully clear. Kindness meant nothing to people who only saw me as a source. And the shove, I asked, he could have seriously hurt me. "We'll include that in the lawsuit," Angela said firmly. "This isn't just eviction, it's accountability." In the weeks that followed, we gathered everything: bank statements, receipts, even texts from Adam and Richard full of entitled demands. Seeing it all laid out was infuriating. For years, I'd told myself I was overreacting. But the truth was clear. I'd poured tens of thousands into that house. They'd given nothing but complaints and scorn. Angela urged me to document the assault to, "We'll need to show there's a pattern of abuse," she said. "This is about protecting your safety moving forward." That word safety hit harder than I expected. I'd sacrificed to mine emotionally and physically for far too long. Now I was done. Silently, I began moving my things out one carload at a time to a small apartment I'd found. I avoided Adam and Richard. Adam barely noticed. Richard, meanwhile, raged daily about the car. But I stayed firm. Angela prepared the final blow: eviction papers and a civil lawsuit. "They won't take this quietly," she warned. "I'm ready," I replied, resolve like steel. Keeping my plans secret was the hardest part. I was living a double life, dutiful wife by day, freedom fighter by night. But each time I imagined serving the papers, seeing the shock on their faces, it gave me the strength to keep going. That day came. Angela rang the doorbell, the stack of papers in hand. Richard answered, scowling at the sight of me. "What do you want?" "Mr. Williams," Angela said calmly. "You've been served." Richard flipped through the documents, face red with rage. "You can't do this. This is my house." "No," I said, my voice steady. "It's mine, and you're no longer welcome." Adam appeared behind him, groggy. "What's going on? Your wife thinks she can kick us out?" Richard barked. Adam's eyes scanned the documents. "Maya, you can't just cut in." And I did. Neither of them said a word. Panic was dawning on their faces. This wasn't a bluff. Angela turned. "Let's go," she said. I walked away, lighter than I'd felt in years. Angela later returned to serve the final noticed. I watched from across the street. Richard's expression shifted from irritation to confusion to fury. She can't do this to me, he roared. Angela remained composed. You've had your 30-day notice? As of today, you're legally required to vacate. Adam emerged, rubbing his eyes. Maya, seriously, what is all this? Angela handed over the lawsuit, $20,000 in damages for physical assault, financial exploitation, and emotional distress. This will proceed whether you comply or not, she told them. Richard snatched the papers and ripped them in half. You think this scares me? That's for the court to decide, Angela said calmly. The sheriff will ensure the eviction is enforced. When the sheriff's car arrived, Richard exploded again. She's lying. This is my house. The officer reviewed the papers. This home is in Maya's name. You must vacate immediately. I won't. Adam appeared, duffel bag in hand. Why are you doing this? He called. We're family. Family doesn't shove you down the stairs, I said, stepping from the car. Family doesn't drain you dry and make you feel like you owe them your soul. This is my house, my life, and I'm taking it back. Richard shouted something, but I didn't hear it. Adam met my eyes. For once, he had nothing to say. Angela placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. You did it, she whispered. As I watched them leave, a wave of peace settled over me. That day, I reclaimed my home and myself. The house, once filled with their demands and noise, was now quiet, almost unrecognizable. Without Richard's tirades or Adam's indifference, the space felt larger, more open, like a blank canvas ready to be repainted with my own colors. Angela stayed with me as I changed the locks. You've done something most never find the courage to do, she said, her voice warm. It's hard to walk away from people you've poured so much into even when they've never earned it. I nodded slowly. It was never just about the money, I admitted. It was about taking my power back. They made me feel like I had no choice, like I owed them everything. But I don't. Over the next few days, I began piecing my life back together. I hired a cleaning service to rid the house of the mess they'd left, and each scrubbed surface felt like a small victory. The house no longer felt foreign. It was mine again, truly mine. Friends and coworkers began checking in, offering kind words and support. You're amazing for standing up for yourself, Lily told me one afternoon over coffee. It would been easier to keep tolerating it, but you didn't. I think I just hit a wall, I confessed. When Adam said I should have just given Richard the money, I realized he didn't care, not even a little. So why was I giving him everything I had? Lily nodded. It's hard to see that when you're deep in it. But you're out now. That's what matters. Richard and Adam tried calling me once. I didn't answer. Angela reassured me they had no legal leg to stand on. You've already won, she said. And I believed her. For the first time in years, I felt untouchable. I began exploring new interest things I had long set aside. Yoga, painting. I even planned a solo trip to a coastal town I'd always dreamed of visiting. With their constant demands gone, I had space to breathe, to think, to live. Eventually, I decided to put the house on the market. It was symbolic closing that chapter for good. Angela guided me through every step. and the lawsuit against Richard moved steadily in my favor. The compensation wasn't just financial, it was emotional. It was the legal validation of all the pain I had endured. In my new apartment, everything felt lighter. I had time for myself, hobbies, even lazy mornings with coffee on the balcony. No nagging, no drama, just peace. "You look happier," Lily said during one of our regular coffee dates. "Like something's been lifted." "Because it has," I replied with a smile. For a long time, I thought leaving meant quitting. But now I see it was the bravest thing I've ever done. She raised her cup. 2 brave new beginnings. 2 never settling for less. I added, I no longer thought about Richard or Adam. I didn't replay that night or doubt my decision. I knew I'd done the right thing. The final judgment came. Richard was ordered to pay. Would he? Probably not. But that didn't matter. The ruling stood as a monument proof that my story mattered, that I mattered. On the day I handed over the keys to the house's new owners, I stood alone in the empty living room. The memories, the hurts, the betrayal still echoed faintly, but they no longer controlled me. I had taken my power back, and in doing so, I had found myself again. As I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, a deep calm settled over me. The road ahead stretched wide, open, and full of possibility. And for the first time in a long while, I felt excited to see where it would lead. This wasn't just the end of a chapter, it was the beginning of a story. That was Finelli and